and Smith. Notorious Big.
You want?
Yeah, he pointed to me now.
Let me just say, you were right.
No, but you see, you have problems.
Man, hush him up.
You see, it's problems.
But that's what he likes.
It's problems.
You were right.
But he rarely says it to anybody else.
Your problem. Oh no, I say that to you quite a bit, so you don't
You
say
do?
that. Yes, I do.
Not quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
3
Let
times.
me put it to you this way, and then we can move off of this subject really quick.
Excuse me?
Generally, you're more bigoted to me than I am toward you.
That's not true.
Ah!
That is not true.
You feel.
It takes a lot for me to get upset.
Did you hear what I said? What was the
Said
question I said?
generally, you said, the statement was generally, I'm a lot more bigoted to you than you are to me.
Yeah.
No, you're snipey. You're snarky
Okay.
in the way that you do it.
Okay,
I'm just more
you're right.
overt.
Now.
Yes, I am right.
Yeah. See. Now let's
rosy today.
let's go.
Thank
yeah.
you, Osprey.
No,
It's
but
so
I
good
don't
to
know if
see you. And
Osprey.
second to him. Osprey, so good to see
Listen,
you.
just because you're drinking
I like-
wine
I like
illegally
everything.
on the radio
Illegally?
doesn't mean you have
How's
to.
that illegal? How's that illegal?
Because I said it's legal.
Oh, okay.
This is my kingdom in here. Okay, and that's the rule.
That is really
And then you're gonna
nice.
find yourself afterwards.
This is really nice.
Anyway, how are things doing? How are things going with you all?
Good, adjusting to this new time. I
The
like it in
weather is good.
morning, But
The
not
time,
in the evening.
I don't. The time doesn't bother me really. You know.
Oh yeah, there you go. You don't have to keep closing it down. I like it in the morning, because then it's sun out. But I don't like it like in the evening. It just comes too fast, especially with this show. Like I don't know.
I just, I go by the clock, I suppose. I'm not doing any swimming or anything like that. So I'm not
I like to
really-
ride my bike, so I can't
okay.
go ride. I'd have to go early in the morning now.
Yeah, I see. Okay, that's good.
Or shoots.
Well,
Or shoots. Well,
if you say you like to ride your bike, that's good.
You ain't know nothing but that.
I want to talk about our engineers issue, and I'm not going to call names.
First of all, there's only one engineer in here.
Yeah, that was the apostrophe on engineers.
Behind
Issue.
the S.
Yeah, before the S.
Okay,
Engineer.
well, then that's him.
comma, that's what I mean.
That's what I said. There's only one engineer.
But
in
I
here.
said but what do you, no, but I
So
mean I
you're
was
getting them mixed
I'm not
up?
going to call names about the other parties, not about him. We know his name.
This makes zero sense.
I'm going
Had
to
he said
to-
engineers with the apostrophe behind it, then it could have been you or Kendrick or somebody
No.
else.
Listen to what I'm saying to you. I'm not disclosing his name. I don't have a problem disclosing his name. I'm talking about the people I'm going to be talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
See? So what I'm saying is
Something
I am
about
going to
you.
talk about the engineers. That's one single apostrophe before the S issues. But I'm not going to be calling any names with regard to the parties you were involved with. Now, do you have an issue with that? Because if you
Yes.
don't, if you do,
Yes,
I won't.
yes,
I
he
won't. I
does.
won't say anything.
Yes, sire. I
Okay.
do.
All right. I just, I think you should open up and say the system. I tell you what,
blaming this man
we
for
won't.
some of
No, we're not going to talk about the issue. I'm going
No.
to talk about this scenario where a professional was rendering a service to you, and it took so long. Were you not upset about that?
Just give him a thumbs up like
course.
Kendrick does.
You were very upset.
That's all. And that'll.
And what did
that
you
will
did you
end
did
that.
you did
Kendrick
you?
is incredibly
Because
smart.
I'm talking. And did you do anything about that?
Just put a thumbs up and then he'll go away.
Yeah. Then I'm not going to go away. As long as you keep on doing it, I'm not going to go away.
And you keep
And
on
so.
doing it. There you
Now,
go.
find
sit
you see what I
sit
talk
your
about the
horse.
bigotedness? That's an example right there.
Because you put him
One,
on
tick
the
off
spot.
one. That's one. Start adding up.
You putting him on the spot.
Biggity. Biggity. One.
I see why Kendrick is keep quiet.
Yeah.
Again,
She's
with
bigot.
the
She's
thumbs up.
extremely biggity. That's all to it. Now, how are you doing, Miss B.I.G.? Notorious. You see, you could go Notorious B.I.G. for you.
So, Notorious B.I.G. That's you.
Itty.
And Notorious Big E. That's
Yeah,
me.
yeah. It is.
I actually like that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Notorious B.I.G. I like that one.
Even in the beginning part.
I like
Even in
that.
the
I like
beginning
it.
of this part, she
I've
did
gotten
the.
so many aliases from this show.
Yeah.
I never had like an alias in my life.
No?
No.
Well, I need
So now he
As
Puff
long as
Daddy
they're
and
not
now
going to be
Notorious Big E.
alien. Now, how was the weekend?
That was a big grin.
What did I do on the weekend? Oh, I stayed indoors on Saturday.
Yeah.
That was good. I really enjoy just relaxing. I haven't done that in a very, very long time.
Okay.
I don't like when people come over to my house unannounced, so I just leave
Okay.
them outside.
Okay.
So that was good.
So if
Mhm.
someone knocks on your door, they can't get
I
entrance.
don't let them
I don't
in.
let them in either, to be honest with you.
Oh, I think people should call before they come over. You don't know what state I'm in.
Yeah. The only
Yeah,
people
you know.
that come to my house that are really annoying is your JWs.
I don't mind them so much.
Oh, I do.
I don't mind. They're very respectful.
They're respectful,
Yeah,
but they're
they
annoying.
are. They are.
Yeah, I would like them to be
time.
respectful by not coming to my house.
Yeah, but they don't know that you don't want to see them.
I've told them. And I've told them to tell the rest of the
told all
people.
I just
Okay?
want to say. No, man.
Sign.
I
What's
don't-
that?
The sign? Put
No
a lawn
JWs.
sign?
No JWs, yeah.
I just don't want people, period. My coworkers came to my house, and one of them said, you know what, let me call her before I come because I know how she goes. And
Mm-hmm.
she called, like, as she was walking towards my door, and I said, don't come. Because I just don't want
But
company.
but hold on a second. Time out.
I know that sounds
So she
mean,
was
but I
going to
just-
call. No,
because
give
it was
me 1
unannounced.
second,
It
please.
was unannounced.
She was going to call. She called you.
She was coming over
As
with
if she was
someone.
coming up to the door. So,
Not
if
up
you
to
had
the
said
door.
yes, and it took like 30 seconds to knock, she would have. What would she have said? I was just here. I mean, what did she
I
was?
just call me in advance and then see what my state of mind is, and then I'll, I just don't on my weekends because I go hard through the week, and on the weekends I just want to be left alone. That's the antisocial me.
Or as we call it, the notorious PIGT. Candy, and your weekend was?
Gotta pull the
busy.
mic. Go pull the mic.
Busy. My weekends are always busy, it seems. I don't, lots of little errands.
And you have children, too, so.
And, little side jobs.
Side jobs.
One that involves our anklet.
So we were discussing that. The problem is when you bring. See, this is why you cannot have in the and I'm sure I'm going to report you to Urka. This is where you cannot have
Why
Dino.
but why are you going to put us
All
on
I have
blast?
is a smoothie.
Yeah, but what was in the smoothie?
Bananas
Right.
and coconut.
Right.
And Baileys.
So having said that, yes, that thing with the children, that's something else, hey.
But was it? Yeah. Oh well, yeah.
Children.
Because you got soccer. My son had a soccer game that lasted about 3 hours. They played like 4 games.
It would be great if when they get the self-driving cars,
Just
you could just
get
program that in
children.
and just put the kids in,
Right. Buckle
and they
up
just
now.
go,
Send them on
Carry
their
on.
way.
Well, they won't start
and then
until
it
they
alerts
buckle up.
you to say, okay, well, we've arrived.
Yeah. But
And
you don't
then-
even have to be there.
No,
That's
no,
what I'm
no,
saying.
no.
You
It
can
just
just put them
says,
in the
yes.
car
Alerted. Oh, they're
and they
there
just take them
safely.
around.
Right.
Yeah.
What you did on the weekend?
Horizontal.
Excuse me? That could be two ways.
No, like whatever way you want. I was horizontal. Yeah. I didn't. It was, it's as opposed to vertical.
There was no polka involved.
Was no home. No home. What did you say?
I'm moving along because you like the report.
What's with your boy? What's your boy? You in the Green Mile or something? Mate? You remember the Green Mile when he's?
I never watched it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then
Oh,
I won't
my
spoil it for you.
goodness.
I heard that no poker involved.
No,
so
no. I
just-
was. I just took it easy. I try to decompress on the weekends, man. I try to
You had your
recluse.
massage?
I'm extremely reclusive on
Yeah.
the weekends. I generally don't leave my neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
I have my supplies at home, so I don't.
Sorry,
I don't need to go out.
Just supplies.
I think I went and got some food. By the way, let me just say this. This
You
is
didn't get it
a
delivered?
shameless plug.
This is a plug for who?
For Summer Palace, because let me tell you, man, I like that spicy lobster. I had that takeaway. I did a takeaway on that.
Yeah, I like
Okay.
the chicken. What I had.
So I had this, and they had this
And their
beef
soups.
tips thing. I've never seen that in any Chinese restaurant. Usually they have that shaved beef, where it's
I like
like,
the shaved beef.
yeah, but this one is like little cubes, nice
Oh, you like
size,
them
and
cube?
good meat, good
I like
meat.
the shave.
But anyway, it was good. The spicy lobster, I recommend that.
Well, you always get that. So
Yeah,
you
I
must
recommend
really,
that highly.
You must really love
Stop.
And of course, the combo rice.
it. You can treat
Must
us.
have
You
that.
can treat us.
Combination.
It depends on how you behave. And right now, you have one. Well, you almost was a 2, but I'll give you 1. So the anklet. Can we research that? Can you do some research on that?
Anklet,
Anklet, right,
I think it's biblical.
The biblical
I think,
say-
like you
Is
know,
it Jezebel?
yeah, Jezebels or prostitutes would have them on.
Oh,
What? You
oh
can say
no, I didn't.
prostitutes.
Oh yes, okay. Well, and then what happens if you wear 2? Oh dear, is that
You double
twice?
time. That's over time.
Oh,
you
I've seen
putting
it
in
too.
plenty? No, I don't have 2 now.
We can't get a thing.
don't have those.
I can't. Oh, here we go.
I think times have changed, and so people don't really regard them the same way.
I really don't.
The history of the
When I was in
anklet,
high
is that what I would
school,
look
boy,
up?
they really
I love anklets.
put like anklet and then put like prostitute or something like that.
Anklet.
Or like
History or something like that.
like the gypsies and stuff used to wear the anklets, right? Like, the
I don't know.
or something like that. Just,
It doesn't say. It just
People
says
come on,
barefoot
it's-
ankles and toes historically have been worn for centuries by girls and women in India.
In India.
That's what they say in Britain.
India.
They say in India, and it doesn't really give any kind of
No, man, it's
professional
some
association.
Is there
biblical
some reference? Yeah.
man.
Of course, they have one here which says, "What does God say about anklets?" I didn't know God
Knew about
That's what I told you,
anklets?
I think it's biblical.
I didn't know God engaged in that
But
sort of thing.
just the absurdity of that. Listen to it. It's
Yeah,
we're not.
and they have a whole
Give me a
thing on
break.
that. So anyway, so that's enough of that. Now, on the more important thing,
'Cause
I am going to probably be not feeling well tomorrow. Based on my history
Around 8 o'clock.
of around about 2008, 2012, round about now, I started to get a little stomach bubbling. Okay?
Turn the TV
Very
off.
tense. And I literally get sick. Because I feel, you feel
I know
passionate
that
about
kind of
something.
feeling,
You know
yeah.
the feeling?
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's been bothering me for a couple of weeks. I think that it's subconsciously been bothering me. I
Why
care
do you
that.
internalize that so much?
I don't know. It's just one of those
Even-
things where I think that, listen, like you saw that video I showed you about the
With
the
slave-
seasoning
yeah.
plantation. When I see
Yeah, share that
hate,
with you, Candy.
yeah, when I see, it's one thing to have difference of opinion, but when I see hatred, okay, manifest in power, so that people's essentially hatred becomes the norm or would makes decisions. It really freaks me out. It freaks me out that we could go back and see some things happen in terms of women's rights, in terms of civil rights. I mean, you saw some of the things that the judges in some of these cases were saying. They were saying, so what happened was the Republican Party, especially in states where there are Republican governors, did these voter suppression laws where you got to have like this kind of ID. Like you could have a gun license, but you couldn't have like a student ID or a driver's license to register to vote.
Right, yeah.
And so these judges have been overturning these rules, and they're saying, "Are you people insane? They're literally, are you insane? Can you go and pick out these people and just purge the voter registration aimed at this particular group of people?" They use words like insane and how pointed it was, and it's a scary, scary thing. We have never had, and that's why I say, we have to appreciate the bombers. We have never had that level of hatred in this country. We've had major differences of opinion, major. We've had what do you call it? Apartheid type, policies in this country.
Yes.
We've had segregation. We've had all that thing, but we never had that degree of venomous hatred, where you have a whole organization, designed around doing things like lynching, and it's a scary thing,
I hear you.
And so it really bothers me a lot when I see that kind of regression. That's why I get it. I take it personally. But
I mean, but you don't have to feel any anxiety for much longer. We're in the final stretch, so we'll see what happens tomorrow.
so tomorrow,
I hope you're prepared.
what's that?
Y'all prepare. I hope y'all prepared.
Well, what I'm going to do is if your boy wins by any reason, I gonna go get one of them wig, man. I can start grabbing because that's the new trend.
Yeah, you try that then.
No, but I can say Donald Trump, the president.
Okay, he ain't your president.
It's fine.
He's not your president, so you go follow suit and see what happens.
No, but
This place, this world will be in a tivy.
we got a break. We can take
yeah,
a break and we'll come back. Yeah.
Shine Insurance, Roman Mill Bread, Arawak Homes, Kalik, Woodlawn Gardens.
Listen, man, you have my things, right?
Correct.
See, now you know what that means, right? That we have to come in and we have to go, can you run through that please to check to make, that's what you have to do. And that's a sad thing. We're supposed to be on automation. But let me ask you a question. We're going back to this thing, and then we'll talk to Candy. Can you imagine if Barack had said, well, you know, once you're famous, you can do some grabbing.
They'd have lynched him.
Well, he should have just. So does he had it? So does he, like, let's say he's home watching TV, the Big Sanan, right? If he's watching the Big Sanan and he hear
CNN.
Barack Obama said, and then they play the tape, he gonna lynch himself. He's gonna lynch himself.
And I'm not even talking
I give up. First of all, I stop. I inquest.
He'd back off.
No, he'll say, I withdraw.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Back off. He'd be like, okay, I can't.
No, you know what they'll do? They'll hate him so much, they'll say, no, you can't withdraw. We have to pull you out.
But let me ask you, they don't do like, okay, so I don't know how the process goes, right, when they're looking at these candidates. I imagine, obviously, there's a vetting process. But do they not sit down with these candidates and say, now spill your guts and tell me every possible thing that could hamper your progress in this election moving forward?
Well, you think that people...
skeletons in your closet.
Yeah.
And,
I always marvel at how people, like, at that level of exposure, right? Like, you remember the fellow Edwards? From
Yes,
John Edwards. Did he not think that if you're running for president of the United States of America,
I liked him so
right,
much, boy.
that someone was not going to find out that you had inserted your penis into another person and had a child?
Riel. What's her name? Riel Hunter?
Yeah.
Let's get real. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think, well, maybe that'll slip by? No, there's a whole department of people. They're just looking for stuff.
But that's my point. So, I mean, like, I don't know what kind of vetting was done with Trump. I mean...
See, well, the problem with Trump is you have to kind of vet yourself, okay? Because other people might know that. So you kind of go like, you know what? I used to do this, and then I better pull out of that, okay? All right? But Trump, I don't think he can remember anything because he says something today, and the boy goes, Putin was Putin.
And you recorded.
Okay.
My favorite is that he denies things where he's recorded. That's my favorite. So it's like, there's no even denying it.
Putin.
You just seem like a nut job.
Who's Putin? That's the classic one, okay? I don't know any Putin. Oh, boy, he's good. But I think, you know what? I think he knew he was going to lose. I think Trump got a plan. And the plan is he knows that he can be rich after that because he got about 30 million people following him.
For business, but you don't think with all these things that he's been saying and doing on the campaign trail that's going to hurt his business? That's going to hurt the Trump brand?
Well, it hurt the Trump brand, yeah. So he can come up with a whole new business model. He's going to not be in the luxury hotel business anymore.
Well, I don't know.
He can be in the Fox TV type business.
Maybe there's another career waiting in the wings for him. But his former colleagues have said one thing they can say about him is he's the ultimate salesman. Like, he could sell anything.
I think he ran out of product though.
No, boy, I don't think so.
Yeah. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see.
But what about your boy, Carson? No. You think anybody going to him anymore?
Ben?
Yeah.
Who, the picture of Jesus and him?
Forget about
Do you
him.
think anybody is going to him for anything anymore? And
he retired, man. He don't have to work.
He must. He can't work anymore.
But there's a whole bunch of people where there's some fallout, like your boy Giuliani.
Yeah, Giuliani.
Yeah, okay. All of those surrogates, let me just say something. There's one woman, I have to find her name. She comes on MSNBC. She is of Hispanic.
The Hispanic lady. You called her name before.
No, this is the one, not the one on CNN.
Republican woman. You mean the Republican?
She's Trump's surrogate.
Oh, no.
And she is so annoyingly, she's just annoying. She's just annoying.
I haven't seen her then. I saw the woman who can't stand him, but no, I don't know.
Anyway, that's it for that. We have Candy with us. I don't know if Osprey knows the cue.
Song? No, he doesn't.
No,
It's okay.
So we'll just pretend.
Should you sing it?
No, please.
I don't feel like that. Yeah, so you have a University of the Bahamas shirt.
It's like candy.
You got it?
We harmonized.
Yeah. So you have a UB.
A UB?
Yeah.
UB? You know what? I prefer that better than Cobb. When I was
Cobb.
growing up and they did college bombers, I thought Cobb. I don't like that.
I
Yeah.
got used to it.
Yeah. C-O-B.
UB?
Yeah.
It's just, we never
But
said
UB,
Cobb,
yeah.
Ed.
You down in the UB?
Yeah, I go to UB.
All right.
Yeah,
Or,
lots
you
of
know,
people
you
around
of
there blue today.
So when do they
Or
start
you
that?
of- What do you mean?
Today was like wear
The-
your blue.
where-
But no,
right,
when
wear
is the
blue
start
shirt.
of the...
This is
It's
week.
the whole
It's
week.
no, I mean, is there a university now? Is it official?
I think
No,
Thursday.
well, Thursday is
Okay.
the inauguration.
Yeah.
Yes,
What Thursday is
is
10?
the
Yeah,
no,
10. But let me ask you a question.
Thursday's the 10th.
Where you getting them
Yeah,
shapes?
it is. The 11th is Friday.
Because you know you like
Well.
the shape.
I was special. I was given a shirt.
Okay. All right.
Yay!
All right. Well, it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
So tell us what's going on.
Well, I'm going to cut right to the chase there,
Cut to
Ed.
the choice.
So today's topic is how much should you really how much should you compromise of yourself in your relationship?
2%.
And it's so, you know,
Is that good? Is that good?
no. Really, I mean, this is a topic for. I know I read on Facebook a friend who's just recently married, celebrating their anniversary, and she didn't realize just how difficult living together with someone would be, and going from me to we.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have people that have been married 10 plus years, and it's like, geez, how much
Louise.
more compromising
Mm-hmm.
am I going to do here? So it's, the question is, how much of your core self can you compromise? Like, you have, the little compromises that, during your day-to-day stuff, like just very frivolous kind of things that, kind of technical stuff, like put a Band-Aid on it for that time. But when you have to compromise and shake the very core of yourself, like how much of that are you willing to do?
It depends on what you have to compromise. I mean, what is it that's being asked? Is it you have to give up your career because your husband or your wife wants you to stay at home and help with the kids? What is the compromise?
Right. It could be a plethora of things. What happens if it's a whole bunch of things like that? I mean, very important things. And, when do you say, okay, well, hey, I maybe, and what if one person is doing all the compromising?
I was just about to make that point, because it's not, for me, it's not going to, I'm willing to bend in certain areas, but I think you have to be just as flexible. If
Yes.
I'm doing all the compromising, there's a problem, it's going to stop. I'm just going to stop.
Right.
So it depends on what the compromise is. If it's something minor and I could just make some adjustment, that's fine. If it's something major.
Major, right. Major is like what? Changing. What is major to you? Because major
to
is
me
different to
if my
across the
husband
board.
said to me, listen, you don't need to work. You need to just stay home, and I've got enough money to take
I don't
care
want
of
you
us
to
and our
work.
family.
I want you to stay
I just
home.
want you to stay home and keep the kids.
what's
That's a
wrong with
major
that?
compromise for me that
Compromise.
I don't know that I easily can say, oh yeah, I go along with that, because I find a lot of I love to work. That makes up a big part of who I am. I just love to work. I love to
Work
be
from
self-reliant. That didn't work from home. You
But
can't work from
I
home when you're
agree
dealing with kids.
with which one of the compromises,
Well-
because here you have two friends. We're referring to chicken
Yeah.
and the pig. And tomorrow for breakfast is bacon and eggs. All right. So see, my compromise is that I don't lose my life. You can lay an egg easy.
Right.
All right. So
I can like that way.
That was a good one,
That was
actually.
good, Osprey.
Yeah,
So,
the
so
best.
the thing
That was
is,
good, Oscar.
with compromise, though, it's on each situation.
Right.
So at the end of the day,
That's what I'm saying.
the aggregate compromise might be somewhere in the middle.
But now, suppose you land yourself in a situation where, one person just is not willing to change.
Then we
Shoot them.
And they've made it very clear that listen, this is it. I mean, this is what you get.
Well, then I for you.
You now need to make that decision.
I for you.
Right. But is that fair?
Well, it's let me tell you,
Especially
if
now,
you have,
and
if-
this is not like you. This is not your friend. This
Yeah.
this is your spouse.
Yeah.
You've got everything. Your lives are intertwined.
they're not
You've
your
got
spouse.
children.
They're
I'm
not
just
your spouse.
saying.
Yeah, I'm saying they're making themselves not your spouse, because if you have a relationship, and that person is not willing to bend on anything, you probably are always pissed off. Okay?
Agreed.
That means you're probably always in a state of, and I hate this word even saying it, a state of angst.
I love that word.
Okay? So the fact is that when you go home, you know, yeah, dumb, you ain't gonna ban for me. You ain't gonna take on no pork chop. You know, the thing is, so you're just always pissed off. You can't live with someone you're gonna always piss. No matter what you ask them to do or to help you, they're just
Well, I mean,
like
they don't
always no.
necessarily have to be pissed off.
No, you're pissed off because they're always no. They're always no. They're always like no, I for that.
No, I'm saying that's what I'm saying. That if the person that,
The non-compromiser.
Right. No, not the non-compromiser. The person who's compromising themselves completely
Right.
doesn't necessarily have to have the personality of being pissed off. Like, oh, I'm pissed off all the time because
Well,
you
if they're
say
not,
no.
then they don't have to worry about a
Maybe
thing.
you have some
Yeah,
people that
exactly,
guess what,
exactly.
you know, they just don't. They just want to keep the peace.
Yeah, but see, let me tell you,
that can't
I'm a
last
person
long.
who likes to keep the peace. Okay,
mm-hmm.
but when people are not willing to see that they're not compromising, it causes me anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like you
But
say.
then what do you do?
I deal with it.
And what happens if it's to no avail? Like,
Well,
what,
if it's to
what
no
do you
avail,
do?
I don't listen. Let me give you an example. One time, this is a college thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would, I don't like dirty dishes and things like that. And the guys, they seemed like they didn't care or they didn't notice. So I said, one day I said to them, I said, listen, guys, do you not notice that you're not washing dishes? Oh, no, we wash dishes. I said, no problem. And then what I did is I didn't wash any dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So then they noticed
Because you weren't cleaning it up.
that, oh, well, how come? Oh, yeah. Well, of course I washed my dishes.
Mm-hmm.
There's where, and then of course I put my dishes away.
I was gonna say,
I go all the way. I don't.
Yeah, I thought you were
this,
gonna leave it in there.
no. This is a college. This college, so you only got about 5 dish. So I take my 2 and I put that. I hide that in my room. You see? So then they would, you got to go to an extreme. And I mean, these aren't people I'm going to live with forever.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's
So
kinda
you have
easier
to,
to deal
you have
with.
to deal with scenarios as they come, and you have to try to deal with it. Now, if you can't mediate or resolve these issues by trying different things, because what did I do? I made the effort to try to resolve it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't resolve it, you say, you know what? Later for you, Jack. I'm moving on.
I know, but is that easier? That's easier said than done. I mean, you're in a situation where
70% of the people are doing it.
what's that?
Moving
Walking
on.
away?
Yeah.
Oh, moving
No,
away.
they're
No,
not. No,
not
they're
70%.
not.
No, they're
No
not.
way. No,
Oh, is it 60?
That's way
No,
too
sir.
high.
It's high.
Way too high.
Okay, check it
That's
out.
way too high.
Check it out. It's high.
No.
Osprey, would you care to do some research for
But
me?
that compromising with
No
your
to that
college
one.
buddies is completely
Thumbs down.
different than guess what? Me and you have a house, we have money intertwined together, we have kids, and you're
Well, that's
gonna
when you
tell
start the
me-
process.
I know, but you're gonna tell me that this is
that
what it
wrong.
is. Now you need to make a decision.
Yeah.
That is a very horrible position to place your spouse in, isn't it?
Oh, we got to take a break. We're going to have to continue.
All right, we're going to wrap this mother up, as they say. I don't know if they say that. I just said they said it. Yeah.
Because
So
you're
this
the
this is
chief.
the thing. This is the thing. You're talking about compromise, and this is a daily thing. It's not just relationships. It's working environments, et cetera, et cetera. It's not tenable, in my view, that you would have a situation where someone, day in and day out,
Yeah,
is not
but
willing to
specifically for
be,
spouses
because you know what compromise
or
is?
long-term
It's being fair.
relationships.
It's fairness.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm all about
Okay?
fairness.
So if you're not going to be, if you're not going to
Be malleable.
be fair,
Yeah.
then you're not willing to coexist. You're not willing to. You need to be on yourself, be with yourself,
Yeah.
and then you could have everything, which you need.
Exactly.
100%.
I can't
good.
see anybody staying in a relationship, and not even just a romantic relationship, any kind
Any
of
kind of
relationship,
thing.
any friendship
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever, where they're not equal.
It's all about you.
It's not balanced. It's not fair. That's
Mm-hmm.
annoying. Nobody could sustain that kind of relationship and be happy.
And like you say, it doesn't mean that everything you do has to be equal, because over time, there's an aggregate
Yes.
compromise. And so, you give all one thing, but, the person, so, and you know that.
Yes.
But if you're with someone who they don't ever,
They say no, and they mean no, and that's the end of it.
what you
And
think about
change.
that? What you think about that, you be?
You be. No, I mean, I agree. You know, the little compromises here and there, that's unavoidable and that's natural. But when you get into changing the very, trying to change the core of somebody and what's important to them, that's when you're getting into some sticky issues. And if you love this person, you ought to be willing to, at the very least, let's sit down and
let me ask you a
let's hash
question.
this out.
Do people like
Is
that?
it hash or hatch?
No.
Hash.
Hash, right?
Let me ask you a question.
Sorry.
Do you think people like that who are the non-compromisers, do you think they reflect? Are they reflectors?
Introspection.
Some do.
Introspective. I don't think so. I don't know. I think those type of people are very controlling type of people.
Now, I agree with you a bit on that. Now, and I'll use myself
They
as an
like
example.
I do
control,
of
right?
situations.
But I do a lot of self-reflection. So let me just use myself as an example. My husband, he is very clannish. He loves his family. He likes to be around family a lot. You see me, I tell you, people come on my door and I don't even open my
you
door.
need to turn back around.
So I don't,
Yes,
I
on
don't
top of
have
that, you're
a
Miss
family to tell.
B-I-G-I-T.
And it took years, and it was not good between us. But I had to do a lot of self-reflection. Like, okay, this means so much to this person. I need to compromise and be willing to, go out to the family functions or whatever. But I do think some people do self-reflection. It might be take a little longer.
You could
but
be well
anyway.
aware, but still not do anything
Yeah,
about
and
it.
I mean,
I
even,
did
and it
something
might be
about
the
it.
compromise might be, well, I'm not going to every one. I'll go to some. And not, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's
Right.
the compromise.
Yeah, like I'm
that's
never
the
going.
compromise.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Well, let's compromise this and say that we're.
That's something, and knowing how much you are willing to compromise of yourself is very important before you even say I do.
Correct him in there. Because
how
what you
far
might
are
say,
you willing to
instead
go?
of saying I do, you might say, well,
I don't think so.
maybe.
No.
We get too
That would be,
hey,
wouldn't that be a good
not
vow?
anymore.
No, wouldn't that be an interesting exchange of vows? Well, maybe. Now and again.
I think so.
All right.
I think so.
Listen, Candy, it's always a pleasure.
Always.
And
Yes.
we'll see you again next Lundi.
Monday.
Yes.
Lundi,
Do y'all ever,
Lundi.
mardi,
do y'all ever go to
mercredi.
use any other accents besides this British accent?
Well, this
No,
is
because
French.
we're perfect.
Lundi is French. Sorry. If you're not aware of the various
Because it's so-
continental
it's
I thought you
languages.
said
brilliant.
Monday.
Huh?
You said Lundy.
Lundi,
I thought you
yes,
said Monday.
yes.
Do you know, I love to
It's
hear
still a British
the
accent.
little British children say brilliant.
Yes.
It's brilliant.
Or, hello, Mum.
Lovely. Hello,
Mum.
I would go to England just so my children can speak with an
I
accent.
saw this little kid on TV and he said something. And
just love
that's
it.
about it. That's about it.
Who said that?
And
Little
that's
kid.
about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
And that's
All
all.
right, Ian,
All right, but listen, it's a
Rogie,
pleasure. We'll
Osprey.
see you.
Yeah.
I guess by the time we see you next time, it'll be either
We'll have a woman.
President
Hey,
Clinton.
sorry, I'm not.
It'll be the world.
yes, the world
will
will have. The U.S. president will
the
be
most
Hillary
powerful person in the world will be a
Clinton.
woman, perhaps. We have to say perhaps because we're not sure.
It will be. Speak
Or
it
a
into
complete,
the truth.
or a complete numbskull. Anyway,
That will be a disaster for
Yeah.
the world.
all right.
Speak it. Speak
Later.
it, Ed. Bye.
Okay, unplug yourself. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Ruggin Smith and Osprey. And I'm going to say hello to my sponsors, man. Got to throw a shout out.
What's today, Monday?
Monday.
Okay, Monday.
Heineken. And, I had a Heineken. I'm not going to do this for everyone, obviously,
know,
because it's BS. But yesterday I had a Heineken. One of those little small 25-liter bottles. You seen the small ones?
seen those.
They're good, man. Because,
Are they good because they're?
well, I'll tell you why they're
Or are
good.
they good because
You know what I don't like about beer is I like cold beer. And if you have the regular size, the bottom part gets a little bit warm. Whereas the little small set, that steak is cool.
Ice cold.
So I like the Heineken. Sunshine Insurance, Arawak Homes. The other day I was building a Arawak home, and it's you like that one? Woodlawn Gardens. I definitely don't want to say I did that because you care, we care forever. Alternate Dispute Resolution Bahamas, that helped Osprey get to his moments. And Wendy's, Coca-Cola, Roman Meal Bread, Island Luck. Insurance Management, Bahama Grill. They got them ribs, man.
I killed Bahama Grill.
See, now I'm going to do a
Bahama
competing
balls.
thing here, right?
Okay,
Because
go ahead.
I got to go home. I feel like I want to get something to eat on the way home. and I have to now
That's
maybe
right on
do
the
a
route.
combo because maybe I have to do the spicy lobster
some of-
with a combo rib. Okay. Anyway, that would be good. Hey, yes, boy. Roman Meal Bread, Superwash, Bristol Wines and Spirits, National Fencing, and Scottdale Bedding. Got to throw a plug out for them because we were there today. The Paradise Children's Foundation.
Oh.
And they made a donation to the Red Cross for bedding, for mattresses.
That's
for
so good.
But here's the deal. I called up Scott Cadet. He's our sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Scott, listen, do you know people have a need for mattresses? Because the big problem is distribution.
Right.
So he was able to tell me that the Red Cross has a program where they vet people who in genuine need, and then they give them a voucher if they put a credit at Scottdale Bedding. So I said, well, Scott, that's great. And Scott said, and listen, if you guys are going to do that, I will partner with you and essentially do it at cost.
Really?
Yeah, so we'll essentially get double the amount of mattresses.
That's awesome.
So that's so I got to throw a little shout out. Subway, KFC, of course.
I told you all these sponsors are like on our route going
Yeah,
home. You realize
that's
that?
true. Because
Every
I can
last
always hit the
one.
K too on the way.
not Woodlawn Gardens, but the food place.
yeah, Woodlawn, that's out of the way. You want to keep that out of the way.
We love
Okay.
picnic in Woodlawn Gardens.
Like the old saying used to have at remember the graveyards? See, let me see. You see now this is a good segue. I always have these accidental segues. Our guest this afternoon is Courtney Strawn from the Antiquities Museums, Monuments.
Monuments and
Museums.
museums.
Does it matter?
It does.
Okay. At least I didn't say monuments, museums, and antiquities. All right. Okay. Corporation. Now let me see, because graveyards are in that grouping of things, right? So what did the graveyards have on it
What?
that she may not know about, but we would know? It was a sign. And it's like how I'm saying that's out of the way because we could wait on that. What did the graveyards have on it?
To be honest with you, I couldn't answer that.
Drive carefully, we can wait.
Well, I was going to say we can wait.
Remember that? That's what they had on it.
In fact, that was a part of the police campaign years ago.
Yeah, I didn't. It was on the side. There was a sign right in front of right by the graveyard. One on Nassau Street is practically that. I
Absolutely,
remember.
right in the cemetery, right
Yeah,
there.
and it said
Really?
drive carefully, we can wait. That's how we roll in the Bahamas.
Yeah, that was a part of
That's
The
nice.
dead advertisement.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So see the segue? You see that? So Courtney Strawn is with us, and Courtney is the chairman of the Antiquities Museums.
Monuments.
It's monuments?
Monuments and museums.
You know how I can remember it from now on? It's O before you. That's how y'all said that.
Absolutely.
Let me try that again. Courtney Strawn, who's the chairman of the Antiquities Monuments,
And
Museums, and Corporation. So, how you doing, man?
Man, it's indeed a pleasure to be here, and I'm doing well.
Good. No, this is, from time to time we do stuff that is not as heavy, but we it's important, very important, and this is how, this is how we find ourselves, right? Through our history, and that's what you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
So the first thing is, tell us, Courtney, what essentially falls under the purview of the AMMC.
Great. Well, let me tell you, and I went to get the textbook version to
Yeah.
make sure I say it right.
Right.
Because I have some technocrats who'll kill me.
Yeah.
All right. I'll tell you about our core values.
Okay.
All right. To ensure the protection, preservation, and promotion of historical cultural resources of the Bahamas.
Historical cultural resources.
So, in other words, anything that's important, old. No, truly. Anything that's old.
Yeah.
And, when you look at our mission is just saying, now we protect, preserve, promote historic and cultural resources of the Bahamas. And we hope for it to be one day financially sustainable and responsible to the strategic partners or with the strategic partners.
Courtney, I'm going to make a statement. You can slap me down if you wish. It seems to me that, and certainly even way back when we were growing up, I mean, the only reason it wasn't as bad is because it was 40 years younger. Okay. That we've never really seemed to care about these things. That they were there, the fort was there, the thing was there, but we didn't seem to put any value in the importance of these things.
Well, that's not really true. As you said, as younger men, or younger persons, by the way,
That's okay.
when we
But she was in there at the time, so we don't
for example, we grew up in the Chippenham area,
Yeah.
and Fort Charlotte was there. We were kind of afraid, because of this Creole building. And when you go through and they showed you all of the slave stretching, et cetera, et cetera. So then it would appear that nothing was happening. But it was happening at that time and at that level. Today, however, it's a different perspective because we have more appreciation for the resources. What are we doing? All right, how do we entice the population that it's a part of their life, a part of their culture?
See, I was talking with someone the other day about, this very thing. And it seems to me, and we'll get into, exactly what you guys are doing, that we have a kind of a vacancy in our past. Like we're unattached.
That's
Yeah,
very
that-
detached.
yeah,
That's a good way to
yeah,
put it.
You gonna write that down?
I remember that one.
Okay.
That was really good.
All right. but you know what I'm saying? It's like we're completely unattached to something that is of, this is what I love about the United States of America. No matter how good or bad or indifferent, there is a lineage of history, right? When I watched that show, the Antiques Roadshow, and I think to myself all the time, how could we have one of them? Yeah. The antique will be like from Furniture Plus. You know what I mean? So it's like we don't have any. We don't even. We don't. What's going on?
But in my opinion, because we never paid attention under the old system to the history of the Bahamas, there was not an appreciation for what we have.
We were busy dealing with Bonnie, Prince Charlie, and all that kind of stuff.
We could tell you what's happening in the UK or wherever.
Yeah.
But Bahamian history,
Yeah.
so there was no appreciation for what we have.
Right.
And that's why one of our key objectives now is for an educational officer to try and promote our culture of our assets in the schools.
You just did something just now that I always think of when I'm in the U.S., and I never think of it here. So I'll be in a place like Minnesota, and I will see a cliff. And you know what I start thinking about? I start thinking about the Indian who was on his horse looking over that cliff. That historical thing. But we don't think about that about the fort.
No, because again,
We studied the Indian,
absolutely,
but we didn't study our
absolutely.
fort.
Our local history, all right? It's not promoted within the school system. A kid our age, ask us something European, we could relate to, but we have it right here, all right?
You told me a story, and I want to see if I can remember the name of this guy, but you can remind me, of they were digging in the graveyard, and the bulldozer or something hit the tombstone. Or what was the name of the fellow?
Governor Gregory.
Gregory.
Here it is. We pass every day on Market Street.
Yeah.
Gregory's
Yeah. We thought that name after Gregory from the old Gregory Swan.
Man, they were preparing some for some burial in the Western Cemetery, and they just knocked down the tombstone of Governor Gregory. This is why it's so important for us to look at historic cemeteries, and that's an area that's
a specialty.
Oh, absolutely, within itself.
But is one education officer going to be enough? I mean, how do we develop these historical sites for educational purposes?
The education officer's role is to really put programs together to get the Ministry of Education involved. All right, it has to be something that will go as a part of the curriculum, where our students will now study.
Yeah.
All right.
How long does that process take, though? I mean,
you got to start it.
We got to start it. Again, Anyway, let me leave that alone for now.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
thinking timeline. I mean, yes,
Well,
we do
well,
want our kids
well,
to learn
well,
this stuff.
well,
but
let me put it this
is
way.
it going to be 5 years, 10 years?
We have started the process.
Yeah.
All right. Now, how long will it take to get it implemented?
How many? Sorry, Edward. How many historical sites do we have in
Throughout
New
the Bahamas
Providence?
and
Let
the
me-
Providence?
this in New Providence.
Hundreds.
Got to be more than 100. See, there are several kinds of historical cemeteries.
See, I didn't know the cemetery. I
Yeah,
didn't know about that.
absolutely.
No.
It's a major.
I always think the forts.
a
I always
major.
think like the water
Man,
tower.
let me tell you, boy.
the forts, the major ones, the forts, batteries.
You know, where they shoot the cannons.
Where
There's one out of Winton. Did you know there was a Fort Winton?
Winton Battery. Then there's one on Potter's Key.
Potter's Key.
Yeah, I know Potter's Key. I didn't know
out
Winton.
west, and batteries were set up during the colonial times
Yeah.
as a kind of substation to protect the island.
Yeah, I think in my mind now with people like you and Keith Tinker and Gail Saunders, you must be on a daily basis feeling hurt. And I say that because you see what is being destroyed.
Oh, absolutely.
And when it must be like like another stab.
Absolutely. Let me give you an example of a battery being destroyed, and we weren't brought into it till it's finished. Cumberland House,
Cumberland House.
the parking lot opposite Dunkin' Donuts.
I know what you mean.
That was a battery.
You mean no, that ain't Cumberland House. You mean Club 20.
Well, it was Club
Yeah, Cumberland
20.
House is at the top.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, mix up your things now.
Sorry, Club 20. All right.
That was a battery?
That was a battery. And when we were brought into it, it was leveled already.
So the building was a battery.
Yes, within the building.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
So these are the things.
How is something like that allowed to happen without them first consulting antiquities?
Technically, the process, any old building, if you want to alter it,
You have to apply.
when you apply to the Ministry of Works, they will send you to Antiquities for Antiquities to approve what you're doing. Well, not approve, sanction what you're doing.
Yeah.
All right? And then it goes back to the Ministry of Works. For example, since we're on Cumberland House, the building next to Antonius Roberts.
Yeah, the two. Well, I was involved with them.
Yeah, you know. All right, that's the story. They're historic buildings. Now, what are they now? Ruins.
Derelict. Yeah.
Yes. So where do we go?
So the story is, I don't mind telling the story. You know,
You
the
can tell the
PNP.
story.
What we had to do is we said to them, look, there's an owner of those buildings. It is they're condemned,
Right.
structurally unsound. It is cost prohibitive to restore them in its pristine, original state. So we applied on behalf for the owner to Antiquities to say, look, here's the deal. We would like to demolish those buildings so that the owner can do something with it. But when the building is reconstructed, it has to be in concert with the time. Even if it's on the outside, on the facade on the outside. So you reach a compromise.
Yes.
You see, but he may have come back and said, well, you can't do that because that's the burial site of the Woods Rogers or something. So you have to make these determinations on a case by case basis.
And you don't? Do you not sanction a lot of projects that people apply to you?
No,
If they apply
we
to
would
Ministry of
sanction it, but there must be an investigation, an archaeological investigation where we send out an archaeologist to really review the site and see, number one, if there are any burials, all sorts of things.
Did you see what they did at the Point, right?
Right.
You see people,
Crane-
no one notices shit. No one notices this stuff,
Crane Anne's Park is the official name, all right?
Across the way.
Across the way.
Right. But you see what they did with the archway.
Absolutely.
So did you know that?
no.
See, British Colony is a very old building. It's in the 20s.
I know that.
They had an archway there. What was an entrance,
Oh,
and they
no, I've
restored.
heard
They
of-
took it
Yeah,
down,
I don't know
restored
this.
and they
I've heard
restored
of
it.
this.
The monument that you guys did with Archives, I guess, the monument to the boys who drowned on Fort Charlotte,
Right, on Fort Charlotte.
on Western Esplanade.
Western Esplanade, yes.
You know about that?
What you call it?
An obelisk?
The obelisk. The obelisk at Fort. And really, let me give
It's so much stuff, man.
Yeah, that was the Governor General's, the then Governor General, Arthur Folks. He called me up and he said, look, you got to do something about it.
Yeah.
So that obelisk was put there because there were 4 young boys who
saw some people
drowning, went to try and save them, and they died.
And they drowned.
In the process.
And you know that. So they moved it back because it was right on the edge of the. It was right on the edge. It was right on the edge. So some young folks from like some architects.
Well, yeah, the Ministry of Works spearheaded the project.
Right.
Moved it back about 10, 15 feet.
So you could walk around.
So you could walk around it and look at the signage. We put a interpretive sign there to speak to
the history of that.
To the history of
People love that stuff when you pass it, and we don't.
That's some rich history right there.
Oh yeah.
I just the other day, Rogan, and I'm ashamed to say this, but just to show you how we speed around.
Mm-hmm.
I was coming down Shirley Street, and I had cause because it was traffic to stop on the corner of Church Street and Shirley Street. You know, I never saw that graveyard there before. And that must be old. Because St. Matthew's is not the oldest church in Nassau.
St. Anne's.
St. Anne's?
I think so. But
you sure about that?
Yeah, I think so.
You want bet?
No, I don't bet. You know.
Okay.
Boy Scouts on.
Because I don't want to be damn these guys.
Let me tell you, since we're talking about cemeteries.
Yeah.
Do you realize that the building where Charlotte House was built on a cemetery?
No.
All right.
That explains that haunting.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't even know what you're talking
That's
about.
another story. No. There are stories where judges who was in the night doing Manuel Salabay talks about it.
Yeah.
No, I want to hear this. I want to hear this.
I'm serious.
Go ahead.
And this is unofficial, but if you had a story that they were in the night working and they could hear movements, the building was built on
a cemetery. It's like Poltergeist.
Yeah, and it's happy Halloween to everyone. Listen. Well, she believes in ghosts, so I don't have any time for her on that. The other thing that we could sit here, and I'm not a historian, but I love it.
Neither I.
But you know, for instance, how many people know that Nassau, New Providence, was named Charlestown?
I knew that.
Okay, they don't know this.
Yes.
So you know what they don't know as a result of not knowing that? They don't know where they come from. They don't realize that macaroni and cheese and peas and rice and all that stuff come from South Carolina. And they don't realize that the Gullah Islands, the Barrier Islands, okay, where you go, if you can go, because they're almost extinct now, the Geechee people, that I went there, I took a trip there, and I found one guy on this island, and his name was Grant.
Yeah.
His last name was Grant. I said, well, man, that sounded Bahamian to me. Man, he started talking to me. The people who were with me, they couldn't believe how he and I were communicating.
No, I can believe it. Right in Charlestown, South Carolina.
Yeah.
If you go there, you'll think you're downtown.
Straw work.
Doing the straw.
The straw work.
Straw work.
Flatten the straw.
And the
And
streets
straw
and
work.
the designs, the architecture.
The name of the streets.
I tell you. King Street, this street.
Yeah. So I think we, and here's what I think, Courtney Strawn, and this is why it's so sad, really. I was on a show with Wendell Jones the other day, and we were talking about the product, right? The tourism product. And the reality is that no matter where you go in the world, there are unique aspects that cannot be replicated anywhere else in the world simply because it's there. So it doesn't matter if there are 10 countries that have forts. Yeah. They don't have Fort Charlotte. They don't have Fort Fincastle. They don't have Fort Montague. And it seems to me, when you look at Puerto Rico, for instance, who uses the fort as their national, it's iconic for them, right? How we have just seemingly, and I know you guys are doing what you can with the resources you have, but it seems to me that these things aren't elevated into a sparkling, iconic glory, that we love to show people. I don't feel good. I don't feel too good. I'm being frank. I'm being candid with you. I don't feel good about showing some of these things.
My view is this, and let me speak it. I think until the country really take it out of the hands of government and privatize it with the mission to maintain its historical significance.
Yeah.
We will never.
Yeah.
This is my personal opinion. All right, and that's what I've been fighting for the last
We got to okay.
4 years.
See, I don't want to get you in trouble, so you could slap me down. You could tell me to shut up. Now, I grew up. Now, this isn't anything. I grew up on Fort Fincastle.
Yes.
Okay, not round, on. Every single day, that's where I played. Fort Fincastle. Okay, fly kites every Sunday. You know, that top of that fort, I used to be scared. They had a little railing around. I used to be scared because I thought that was so high, but it don't look that high now.
No.
The fort was in it. The water tower was in its glory in those days. Do you know that, Rogan? They had a crown. They had a crown
1966.
and lights that they had on top of that because of
1966.
the Queen's visit.
When the Queen was coming in '66.
And you took an elevator up. They had a gift shop in there, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
What happened?
It's just like, what the hell's going on? But now we have.
98 it was there.
They redid it for the centennial or something like that. But let me ask you this question: two things. What's with the vendors? Now, I know you're touching. I know you're treading.
Well,
do we have to have 80,000 vendors?
Oh, wow. What a question. I mean, let me be honest with you.
Yeah.
And our vision
Yeah.
is to transform Fort Fincastle into a heritage park
Right.
where we fix the water tower, which has been closed
Right.
for about 20 years.
Jeez.
The straw vendors. We're going to create
Another area
another straw market away
from that
from
area.
where they are.
So you can go
we're going to gate it, make it a pedestrian walk,
Okay.
beautify it. Those old dilapidated houses in the back of the tower
Right.
that only the hooligans and the criminals
Move them away.
hang out.
That's
no,
a
no,
park.
No, we got to create,
Yeah, go ahead. Keep on
sorry.
going. Yeah.
Sorry.
You don't
Alright.
worry about
That's
it.
for us.
we're going to create a village
Okay.
for artisans to sell the wares.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole thing is going to be gated.
Okay.
All right. Let me tell you, since we're on Fincastle, and everybody knows,
Yeah.
my wife tells me every night, you can die with this Fincastle.
Yeah.
But the vision of that place is to really modernize it, but keep its historic significance.
Yeah. You gotta do
Fix
it.
the water tower.
Yeah.
Change the elevator.
Landscape it properly.
Landscape it properly.
Right.
Well, when we have visitors go there, they will pay to go there.
Yeah.
You know, this crap of it's free
It's
or a
free.
dollar,
Yeah,
that's
no,
finished.
yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
When it's gated,
But it has to have value.
Yeah,
You can't just
people
go
don't
there.
charge
Yeah.
it.
Listen, we're gonna come right back.
Okay.
Let's come back. Okay. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith and Courtney Strawn, who's with the Antiquities, Monuments, Museums, and
corporation.
No.
I always want to say and corporation. Rogan, you wanted to.
Yeah, I'm just piggybacking off of my question about the water tower. I mean, it's a historical site. I remember going there when I was in high school and just being really enthralled with the place. But it's been closed for nearly 20 years now. I was asking what it would take to get this open financially, and what has been the cause of it being closed. You said
Well,
it's
I wasn't there to say why it was closed, but I can tell you, I can answer your other questions. And we cannot just look at the water tower itself. We have to
Whole
look at the
area.
total site.
yeah.
We have to look at the fort itself.
I think the whole
The
neighborhood.
whole neighborhood has to be transformed. But our site will be transformed, a gated community. Fix the tower, fix the fort, fix 66 steps,
landscape.
landscape it properly, ensure that it's controlled where the hooligans wouldn't go and urinate in the bloody waterfall. You know, these are the things that we must correct.
Our people like to pee outside now.
They like to pee, man. They go there and pee. Just
I told you.
take a shower.
You can use this. You can use it. Yeah, they shower. You can use this as a thing. I tell people, my guests who come from out of town, that when we go to the forts and what have you, and they smell the pee, I tell them, no, that's pirate pee. We just don't move it because it's historical.
Pirates pee, that's a good one.
Smell real fresh.
No, but we preserve that. That's why I smell like that. That's preserved pee. That ain't your regular pee. Courtney, you know, and people are very easy to dismiss Rogan Smith when they hear you spend money on these sites, they don't realize the impact,
Cultural value.
right?
Cultural
No, not
value.
only the cultural value, but the actual business and entrepreneurial
Yes,
potential.
it's that too.
You fix that fort up to the extent, and I hate to say it, I think I dreamt about this once. Imagine if you have that area that is bounded by Prison Lane,
Prison Lane.
okay, which by the way, you know the chains that come out the wall by Mortimer's Candy Kitchen.
Right.
You know about that?
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
Okay, so Mortimer's Candy Kitchen, the prison with Mortimer's Candy Kitchen itself is an institution.
Absolutely.
The Prison Lane, and all the way around the fort, right up down to Sands Lane. Okay, imagine if
And
that
take it back into Mason's Edition. as
Mason's
well.
Edition. But imagine if the fort is pristine, that people who live in those areas, and these were decent homes. People live in those areas, transform their homes into little bistros and little restaurants, and artisans start to live there and paint and draw.
Well,
great area
think
for that.
of
Create a
it this
whole
way.
enclave.
Right now, it's estimated that over 1 million tourists go to that site a year.
And what they
Think about it.
To see what?
Yeah.
And please forgive me.
To smell what?
I call it a dump, but let me correct that. But it's a,
You know,
over
it's
1 million
not
people.
it's not
You
up
gotta
to
be
speed.
candid.
It's
You
not up
gotta
to
be
speed.
You know, it's over
Yeah.
1 million
See, you
people.
can't.
And think of it, the stakeholders, the taxis, they tell the people it's free. Our records show. Let me give you an example. That going through the fort where they charge $1.
That's nothing.
Shh, shout it out again.
That's nothing.
All right.
Well, how do you
$1.
maintain
You know
it?
how much I have to
See,
spend
not
when I
only
go
that.
abroad to go into their cultural?
Give me an idea.
$25, $30,
$5.
$50.
But you got to be a value for.
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
But the
they
value,
put
the
value
value.
there.
No, Ed, let's be real. My wife and I went on a cruise in Aruba, and an old lighthouse out on a quay. They have it landscape, what have you, but it's a rusty
Yep.
lighthouse. You pay $25,
Yes,
and you should see the people.
cost.
All right, so.
But they got a
let's be real.
story going with it, the whole thing. That's
Well,
what I'm saying.
see-
There's storylines
See,
and
the problem,
Yeah.
as I see it,
a narrative.
is that the story must be told
must
as
be
to
told.
why.
Yeah.
But before we do that, we have to fix the asset and make it
Right.
Absolutely.
By the way,
to add value.
who's Finn Castle? Who is he? Because I don't know. I grew up. Do we know who Finn Castle is?
I don't know. You'll have to talk to the historians.
See, we just name Fort Finn Castle.
They know. We don't know.
That's what I'm saying. We don't know.
We don't know.
See, and let me swear.
It's a ship.
I am the chairman. I am the businessman. I have to bring the experts.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying.
I know.
I mean, you got Mount Fitzwilliams. No one knows that. Did you know that Government House is Mount Fitzwilliams? You aware of that? So here's the question now. So we have 3 forts that are up. I mean, you had Fort Winton, right? You have the graveyards. You have the churches. These are some serious historical churches, right?
Mount Fitzwilliam.
Mount Fitzwilliam.
Another
Government House.
example where that's a different tour.
A whole nother
All right.
thing. You saw the thing we did, right? Yeah.
Let me give you an example. We presented a proposal to Government House during the administration of Zahafa. And when you look at it, everybody go to Government House. Drive Shirley Street.
Yes.
The cabs just plug the road up. Anywhere else, you have to pay. As a young boy, Ed and I grew up in the police in the police barracks. Changing of the guard. You pay to go to. I go there free. All right, but come on.
But you know,
these are opportunities,
To make
revenue.
money.
yeah. But not only that, let's talk. Forget about the money side of it. I've had good reason or legitimate reason to be around Government House for many, many years. Okay. And let me use this word, pathetic. Okay. That the place where our head of state resides, okay, that the care that we give it and it's just pathetic.
Well, Ed,
It's a pathetic situation.
Ed, I agree with you. But it comes back to, one, maintenance and the funding to do it. Maintenance. All right? Put a TOR in place to provide the funding so they wouldn't have to depend on the bloody government.
But
push.
let's have this argument though. So as you know, a group I was working with decided we would fund ourselves a plan designed for Government House with all sorts of earnings, that we would seek the financing to do that, and that the revenue that was gained would go toward obviously maintaining any kind of debt that you might have, but to maintain. And any surpluses would go to a corporation such as AMMC. But the problem is there's this control element. Okay?
The system.
And the system doesn't want to relinquish control.
The system, you know, and until we agree to privatize it, they're going to be bottlenecks.
Or at least, even if you don't, because
some form of privatization, give autonomy
right
to the group.
That's what
do it.
Because you don't want those things to be held privately.
They talk now, but everywhere you go is a public-private partnership. Stop talking it. Let's do it.
But do it.
Yeah.
People want to do it, but you know what? Guess what? Let me be candid. The private ready, the public ain't relinquishing. See, so you have these discussions, right?
So stop talking.
And by the way, it can work, you know. Let me just say, you see Pompey Square is a public-private partnership, right? And it is being managed privately, but it is a public space. These things can happen, but we get into these territorial things that impact everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything is impacted by it. Just one little sign, one little move. It's a whole meeting that you have to have, you know?
Meetings and meetings.
Oh, I admire you for sticking in there.
Well, sure. let me be quite honest with you. When I was asked to take on this task, honestly, I didn't know what I was getting into. But I went anyway. My national service. But I fell in love with it, man.
Oh, it's good stuff.
Oh, it's good stuff. But, you know, the bottlenecks hit you from day one. Boom, boom, boom. How do you... Number one, they don't have the resources.
No. But that's why they have to relinquish.
So some kind of arrangement must be put in place for even just to manage the business side of it, to give them the money. All right? And until they do that, it's going to maintenance. Blah, blah, blah.
I know of a situation, Roy Smith. I say these things because it doesn't matter anymore, where the person who was a designer for Central Park, one of the landscape people involved with Central Park, wanted to commit services to doing the botanical gardens. Yeah. But it's just floating around.
Let me tell you.
These are people who like the Bahamas, love the Bahamas, want to do something, you know.
Mr. Gordon?
Let's go back to Fincastle. All right. Our vision is to transform this place into a gated community, make it a pedestrian walk, add value to the place, and charge $50 and $20 to come in. That can derive the revenue to maintain it. And not only maintain that, maintain the whole bloody corporation. All right. For example, let's go to Charlotte. For example, we grew up in the area. Charlotte is. We started a little reenactment. Everybody, you know, blah, 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 but it's not consistent. All right. What do we do to give the wow factor, to bring the tourists to say there's value? Yes,
and
they
the
love
Bahamian.
the reenactment. And the Bahamian. But in my opinion, the Bahamian should not be charged an exorbitant fee.
No, they can have a discounted rate.
rate. But when you look at the cruise industry, and I say this for example, they have ships here 4 or 5 times a week leaving late. They tired sitting on the ship, drinking and gambling. They can do that on the sea.
Yeah.
They want to do something.
And there's nothing to do. And we shut down
So right now,
downtown 5 o'clock.
Right now,
Nothing.
we are in active talks, and we're real active, to take that reenactment and the cannon firing and add a little Bahamian flair where for about 2 hours, have a real show that we could then sell it, promote it, and bring the guests in there.
Whatever you do, don't let me have any interpretive in there.
No.
Rogan Smith, let me tell you something. The potential revenues and the potential learning. So, children go to it free for. There's just so many things, and it's we're missing the boat. No pun intended on this. And I just hope when you see like a place like Cuba opening up, believe me, they're going to have their cultural authenticity stuff, and they're going to revel in it.
Well, don't wait for it to open. If you go to Cuba now,
it's open now. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
See, we have this myth.
We
that
way
Cuba's
behind.
opening up to the U.S.
No, we way
but
behind.
the French, the Canadians, and the
Been
Europeans,
long time.
The
Yeah,
Asians, they've
yeah.
been.
Come on, man.
No,
So-
but you're just saying it. I'm saying this from the perspective of when it competes with our market, which is the U.S. market, and we should have been ready for this long ago. But I just hope that when do you know when some of these works will get started, like at Fort Fincastle?
Well, I could tell you right
pending?
now, the funding has been approved.
You say 7 to 10 million?
We just made the final designs for MOW, Ministry of Works, to give the approval, and hopefully before year end, hopefully we could start putting the shovels in the ground.
What is our Eiffel Tower or our Big Ben? What is our monument that people would come over the world to come and see?
The tower,
The tower.
the water tower. Believe
That's
you.
been closed for 20
Yeah,
years.
no, but let me tell you, and it's such a pictorial view.
It
When you
is.
go there, you can literally see around.
Yes, I remember.
So, to answer your question, hopefully within the next few months, what the designers and what have you are saying that it'll take about 6 months.
It'll take about 6 months.
About 6 months to
redevelop.
transform. What
Wow.
we are in active discussions right now.
Well, they ain't got to build nothing, I guess.
No, nothing is there.
Wow.
The actual old dilapidated homes. All right, let's go. Coming out of 66 steps. All right, when you come out 66 steps into the fort, and you turn, what do you see?
I haven't been there for a while. Do you see what? You see the water tower?
No.
66 anymore.
Well, technically they say 65, but anyway, you come up, you walk into the old Craftsman Press building. Been closed.
That's on the.
It's
who
derelict.
who ran that?
Well, it's owned by the Johnson's family,
Right.
Oscar Johnson and those,
Right,
and we were in
right,
active,
right.
we were in active discussions to
Right.
lease it.
Right.
All right,
Right.
we will repair it,
Right.
restore it to its significance, put a gift shop, a restaurant,
Wow.
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
But to show you,
that
Rogan,
sounds
people who grew up, like, Jackson Burnside grew up
It's right
around
around the
there,
street.
right? Right around there. These are the things where when you start pointing to all of our artists, people can go and say that was the home that Jackson Burnside lived at. And that type
a
of
little bit further, Ed, I'm very impressed that the National Development Plan Committee or whatever, they did a complete study of the whole area. And I mean, they went back as far as Mason's Addition. How do we improve the area, allow the residents to feel like they are part of this whole transformation?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Ownership.
Yeah.
All right, look at Jackson Burnside and those. I went to his father's, my dentist, as a young boy. The building is closed, wrecked. I mean, look, come on.
Okay.
These are the kinds of things that
Yeah.
that annoy me, and yet the tour buses go through there every day.
And what do they do when they?
Just pointing.
No, they just drive up, and then when they get to the fort, everybody fight to try and get in. What we've done to accommodate them? We are in active negotiations with several large parcels of land
They could park.
to have a drop-off point. All right. For example, what's the name of the organist?
Sparkman.
Monroe, the Monroes.
Okay.
All right. His family right on Prison Lane, a couple acres. We're going to lease that. The Johnson property where Charlie Johnson had
Yeah, the
garage.
auto body, the body
All right?
shop. Yeah.
All of that we're going to try and
Okay.
Great.
Well, listen, Courtney Strachan. There's a. You could go on and on. We only
All night.
hit Finn Gassel.
Finn Gassel and a little touch on Charlotte.
A little, and that had two forts in it.
A little.
Did you know that had two forts in it?
3 forts.
So it had 3 forts. Did you know that?
Excuse me?
It has 3 forts in it. Fort Charlotte. Did you know that?
No.
What are the name of the forts?
Charlotte's, Darcy, and what's the other one?
I don't know. But I know there's 3 forts. No, but you have the lookout. You have the lookout. You have the lookout.
Charlotte, Darcy.
Yeah. But Darcy is in the fort, because they must have had one and then built around it. But it's just stuff you learn. It's
Well,
good
look
stuff.
at hour went by already.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Unbelievable.
Because we're having so much fun.
You must have me back next. And
We must have you back. I'm
I'm
usually the one who says we must have you back. Just start again. So yeah, the hour's gone by. Listen, Courtney, listen, man. There's so much stuff. We gotta have you back, man. You can't be fighting yourself back.
I will.
Yeah,
I
you
will
can't
bring-
be,
I
you
will
can't be
bring-
going, but you must have me back.
I will bring the
The
historian.
historian, okay. Oh, that's what he
Right.
means. That's what he.
Bring
That's
the
all right.
historian.
You let it slide that way. He meant because he want to come back with the historian. We gotta run. We gotta run. Thanks a lot for having me. Bye.
Thank you too, man.